What's up, guys? Welcome to a new day. I'm Stephanie Ryder, and this is the 365 Shares podcast. It's February 28th, 2024, and today's topic is Tradition 2. Tradition 2 in the Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families program says, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as expressed in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. And the Big Red Book says, our group conscience is a spiritual method by which a higher power is expressed in our discussions and our decisions. Most of our decisions are based on what is best for the most, instead of what is best for the few. This term, group conscience, which conscience is spelled the way that you think of like your Jiminy Cricket conscience, like the thing that keeps you from doing right versus wrong. And that is the terminology that ACA has adopted to talk about the consensus that we get when we all work together as a group. We try to make all decisions by group conscience instead of having just one person or a few people dictate what we're going to do, or instead of having whoever is the most comfortable with something or the least comfortable with something dictate their terms to us. The Strengthening My Recovery book explains that the reason we do this is because we come from families where often decisions are not made for loving purposes. They're not made with the best interest of everyone in the family in mind. Decisions are typically handed down from the person in the family with the most authority. So for a lot of people, that might be an alcoholic father. It might be an abusive mother. It could be any person with a position of authority in the family. It could be the person with the most anxiety. It could be any person in the family with the position to essentially force everyone to do what they want them to do. The Strengthening My Recovery book offers a great suggestion, and I'm the group service representative for my Monday ACA meeting, which means that I have taken on the role of mostly just showing up almost every week, making sure that we have people to lead the meetings, and really just being a steward to identify what the will of the group conscience is and help that get executed. The Strengthening My Recovery book has a great suggestion. They say to start every business meeting with the Serenity Prayer, which is great. We typically end all of our meetings with the Serenity Prayer, but I do think it's a great idea to then go ahead and say it again to start the meeting, just to get everyone on board and kind of help remind people who are from dysfunctional or codependent backgrounds that we can only control ourselves, that we have to have the courage to accept the things that we can't control, and that we have to try to have the wisdom to know the difference between what we can control and what we can't. There is a lot of giving up of personal control to be a part of the group conscience, but ACA feels very strongly that that is essential to the success of any ACA recovery group. The Strengthening My Recovery book also says that our families might not have been spiritually focused, and they may have made decisions not from a place of a higher power's loving presence. Now, for a lot of us who came from dysfunctional families, there was religion present. Religion or cult-like behaviors or this overly dogmatic, indoctrinating type of religious upbringing is definitely a reason a lot of people end up in ACA, because that sort of devaluing of your individual spirit or this very authoritarian and often patriarchal view of how things should be done can be extremely damaging for a lot of people. And even it can go so far as to encourage or allow child abuse, whether it's physical, spare the rod, spoil the child, which a lot of people have used as justification to beat their children, or even sexual abuse, because you have potentially leaders in the organization who are taking advantage of their position or are even overlooking known abuse within families in the congregation, which is so sad, but it happens all the time. But ACA is saying that our families might not have been spiritually focused. So whether your family was a family of atheists and you didn't have any type of religious upbringing, or if you had a very strict religious upbringing, but there was still no connection to the love of God or the love of the universe, your family may not have been spiritual. So it's an interesting distinction to make and to think about. But as I was researching this episode, I found a great presentation that's on the adultchildren.org website. And it's a guide to the 12 traditions. This one's for Tradition 2. That is a PDF PowerPoint of a presentation that was given at some point walking through this specific tradition too. And I'm sure they have one for each of the traditions, but I'm going to put the link to this PowerPoint in the meeting notes just because I think it's such a great concept and it's so core to ACA. And even if you're familiar with ACA, it might be a good refresher just to say the group conscience is so important and it's a great way to be selfless and to encourage the success of the group as a whole. I'm Steph, and this is my share. The affirmation from the Strengthening My Recovery book says, "On this day, I will remember that I am only part of a group's conscience. I will seek the greatest good for the group while trusting that our decision is an expression of our higher power's will and that we have the required spiritual strength to carry that out." I'm going to take a cue from today's topic and not focus on myself. So I'm not really going to do a share today. I think I did a good enough job. I think I covered what the group conscience is. I talked about tradition 2. I provided some resources. So I'm just going to give everyone some time back and you can think about what a group conscience might mean for you and how that would benefit you in your life. And I'll end on the serenity prayer and just say, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.